Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Radical Candor podcast. I'm Kim Scott.
I'm Amy Sandler. And before we jump into today's episode, I do want to remind you all, if you are not aware, we now have an ad-free podcast as part of our new Radical Candor community. So go on over to radicalcandor.com/community. Join now. When you join the community, you'll get a 7-day free trial to the Radical Candor community. And you'll also get access to Radical Candor courses, including a new 12 months of Radical Candor course. This all comes free with your membership, including this podcast that you're listening to right now. You'll get it early and ad-free. You'll also get real-time learning opportunities, interaction with Radical Candor experts, including you, Kim Scott, and so much more. So if you have ever struggled with communication at work, this is your community. For today, Kim and I are going to explore a listener question about how to challenge someone who's actively undermining their boss and bullying others. So I'm going to read the question, and I start now. Quote, I love your book and podcast. I always recommend it when people need a little management help. I've got a team of 40 people, and I've done all the usual things to engage my team. Weekly one-on-ones, praise publicly, challenge privately. I've been approachable, arranged team events, given people opportunities to step up, provide feedback, and I encourage the team to give me feedback, and most of the team love it. I get fantastic engagement scores. But one of my managers is a young manager in their early 30s, and they will just not engage. And as a result, their team is siloed. I have tried talking to this person, providing gentle coaching and very direct feedback, and they will not listen. And they actively undermine me and other members of the management team. I have offered mentors, training, including this person in decisions and leaving them be. I've given them direct instructions, which they question in detail, quote, just so they understand. This person is intelligent. They certainly understand exactly what they're doing. This manager that reports to me blames me for 2 of their team members leaving, one of whom was good but didn't want to do the job and had a tantrum when they didn't get the promotion they thought they were entitled to, and the other person we had many complaints about. I honestly don't know what to do. This manager is like a cancer, and I know it will make my life an absolute misery if I try to put them on a performance plan. Please help. I am at my wit's end.
You know, one bit of advice that I have for this listener is to listen to our podcast, How to Care Personally, when you really can't stand that person. Because it sounds like maybe that's part of what's going on here. Such a hard situation. When you have someone who is reporting directly to you, who clearly doesn't respect you, it's really hard to know what to do about it. And so I have a lot of compassion for this manager, and I appreciate all the Radical Candor love, and I also understand what it's like. This let's call the boss Alex and the direct report Sam.
Okay.
So and neither one of these people have a gender because it doesn't matter. So Alex, let's say, was responsible.
Hey, Kim, can I just pause you on that?
Sure.
When you said it doesn't matter, it's interesting. Like, it does matter.
It does
you
matter.
don't want
You're right.
people to be derailed by potential gender issues with that.
Yes, gender obviously matters, but for the purposes of the advice we're giving, it would be true, no matter which gender is at. It doesn't seem like this issue is gendered. So to that extent, we're not going to identify the gender of either the boss or the employee. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. And one thing I also want to throw in the mix is the person writing in about a young manager in their early 30s. So there may be, if not a gender thing, a generational
A
thing
generational
going on.
Yes. And I think one of the generational things that may be going on. At least I have twins who are 15, so I'm very aware of this, and the even much younger generation is that they are not afraid to challenge authority. They are eager to challenge authority, and I think that this is true not only for people in their teens and people in their 20s and people in their 30s. Like, I think I've said this before, but it's worth repeating. It has always been the younger generation's job to tell the older generation why they've screwed everything up. That's how we move forward as humanity. But it is never especially fun to hear about all the things you've done screw up. So there may be some of that going on. A young person's skepticism of an older manager. I'm assuming that Alex, the boss, is maybe in their 40s or 50s, but who knows? I don't know that. That's an assumption I'm making that may be totally incorrect. What do you think, Amy?
Yeah, I think just from the read, as you called out this person, acknowledging the passion for radical candor, all the things they have done, the frustration, and I did read it that there was a age or generational difference when they said young manager,
Yeah.
early 30s, and will just not engage. It's maybe a little bit between the lines, but I think it's probably safe to make that conclusion. You said something, Kim, before we get into some practical tips and maybe even a role play, but just that the person isn't respecting that. Sam, the direct report, was not respecting the boss. And I'm curious, were there certain signals in there for you about a disrespect happening there?
Yes. So what Alex said, if I look at the note from Alex, that Sam will just not engage, and then a result, their team is siloed, and that sometimes happens when a manager has a boss who they don't respect. They talk badly about that boss to their direct reports, and then the team kind of gets siloed. The team doesn't feel like they're part of the broader organization because they feel like the leader of the broader organization is a jerk or something. So that was one thing that Alex said, and then the other thing that Alex said is that when Alex offers instructions, they're kind of questioned a lot. They question instructions. They question in detail, quote, just so they understand. And so it's clear that Alex thinks that Sam's questions are not asked in good faith, and that is a sign of disrespect, you know. And then the other thing that Alex said is that the that Sam blamed Alex for two team members leaving, and this can be hard because sometimes somebody wants a promotion, and you, as the boss's boss, and their manager, it just tends to want to promote that person. Uh, Maybe because they're closer to the person, maybe because they are that they don't want to deal with having the hard conversation of saying no, you're not going to get a promotion. So it becomes the boss's boss. It becomes, in this case, Alex's job to say no, you can't promote this person. And then sometimes that person quits, and that's hard for now Sam has to hire that person's replacement, and that's a hard situation for everybody. And then it sounds like Alex also believed that another person on Sam's team had to be managed out, wasn't doing a good job. So, what's traditionally called non-regretted attrition. This person left, but you're glad they left because otherwise they would
I
have.
don't think I've ever heard that. Can you say that again? Non-regretted attrition?
Non-regretted attrition. So when if in
Is that like corporate speak for kind of worked out okay.
I'm glad they're gone.
Yeah.
So this is when you take a look at people who quit. You sort of want to analyze of those who quit. Uh, which ones are you sort of think they quit for a good reason because they weren't, they weren't good at the job. They, whatever, they weren't working well with others. So you're sort of glad they left. That's quote unquote non-regretted attrition. And then there's regretted attrition, which are the people who quit, but they were great at their job. You wish they hadn't. And often there's some disagreement about who's regretted and non-regretted. Sounds like Sam was sad the person left and Alex is glad. So they have a difference of opinion about people on Sam's team, and that's hard. That's hard for Sam, and it's also hard for Alex. I mean, the other reason why I'm saying that that maybe Alex is feeling disrespect is that this manager is like a cancer. And also Alex seems to want to put this person on a performance improvement plan, which is a way of managing someone out, encouraging them to quit. And also making sure that you are communicating clearly about what's wrong so that the person can either fix it and not have to leave, or they can't fix it and then you can fire them without as much legal risk. So that's what's going on. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. And something else that was popping up for me was some of the language around, how much effort this writer, this manager, Alex, has put in to the overall team, to the practice of radical candor. And then there was a shift in the writing and just kind of naming what you said around, this manager is like a cancer and somebody had a tantrum and complaints and entitled. And I just want to name that I think when we feel so frustrated, we might start making assumptions about intentions.
Yes.
And so there's kind of this layering in of what's happened plus this sense of frustration that this letter writer is sharing with us.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that Alex said is that Sam undermines Alex, undermines me, and other members of the management team. So I'm gonna have there's one of two things. I mean, one of a million things could be going on here, but I'm going to boil it down to two. So let's kind of play it out and tell me what you think. One thing that could be going on is that Sam has some criticism for Alex and the leadership of this company, and that the criticism might be worth hearing. Right? So that's one possibility. Another possibility is that Sam just has this sort of authority, this issues with authority that are unresolved. And now Alex and the rest and any other manager at the company are sort of the projection screens for Sam's unresolved authority issues. And so both of these things can happen, and neither of them need to be disasters. In either one of those cases, Sam could be salvaged potentially, and this could work out. Or there's a possibility that Sam is just a big jerk and bullies other people on the team and should be fired. And at which point, putting Sam on a performance improvement plan is the right thing to do, because even though Alex says, Sam is like a cancer and I know will make my life an absolute misery if I try to put them on a performance plan, but Sam's already making this person's life in a misery. So that may be the right thing to do, put Sam, but I'm not convinced based on what's written. So let's maybe play out what it could be like to solicit some feedback. I think that's a place to start, is to tell Sam exactly.
Have Sam tell Alex what's happening. So Alex as the boss, solicit feedback from Sam, see if we can salvage Sam.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that could be a good title for this episode. Salvaging Sam.
Yeah.
So Kim, would you like to play the role of Alex and see if I can be salvaged?
Alex. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So you painted a picture of a couple of possible options. Let's start with the option you painted where me as Sam, I've got a problem and a legitimate gripe with you as my manager, but also, since to your point about the management team, just how this company is being run.
Yeah. Okay. You ready?
I'm ready.
All
Let's do
right.
it.
Sam, thanks so much for having this conversation today.
Yeah. Thanks for making the time.
Listen, I really want to have a conversation that maybe is going to be a little bit awkward. Is now a good time to do that
I mean, awkward for who?
for both of us? It's going to be a hard conversation.
All right. Well, I feel like we've got some problems going on. So yeah, let's do it.
Well, already I feel better about this conversation because I agree we have some problems, and I really want to better understand what those problems are. I will. I'm gonna make myself a little vulnerable here and tell you how I feel. Which is not, it's not your fault. I feel the way I feel, but I want to make sure that we're on the same page because I feel like you don't respect me and you don't respect the other managers at this company. And it's really hard. It's hard to move forward. I feel like this sense of disdain that I get when we're talking is making it hard for for us to work well together. And and so what I want to know what I have done to earn this and maybe I'm wrong, but to the extent that you feel that I'm doing something wrong, I want to know what it is that I'm doing wrong. And either I'll agree with you and I can fix it, or I'll disagree with you and we can have a conversation. And I don't feel like it's just me. I feel like the whole leadership team y you I just feel like you don't like what we're doing, but I don't know what it is we're doing wrong, and I do wanna understand that, and I cannot promise that I will agree with you, but I can promise you that I will the more candid you can be with me, the more I will reward that candor.
Well, so just so I understand, you think I have disdain for you and the management team.
Yeah, that's the sense I'm getting.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not personal. I just I'm not impressed with how this organization manages people. I have 2 folks on my team who have left and someone who, could have been a really top leader, and they weren't given a promotion. And, I just feel like I'm not being supported as a manager. I feel like I'm being left on my own out to dry because I'm doing stuff, looking at my numbers, I'm getting good results, but I'm not being supported by you or by the management.
Yeah. So I'm really glad you raised a specific issue, and I want to talk about that specifically, and then I also want to open it up and see if there are other because you said something that was really broad, like I don't that you don't like the way this organization is managed, and I don't want to skip past that, but let's talk about the specific thing you raised first, which are these two folks on your team who left in part as a result of the fact that you and I had a different assessment of these individuals. So I want to talk a little bit more about that and first of all understand your perspective, and if you're open to it, share a little bit more about my perspective. So let's start first with Corey, who didn't get a promotion. So Corey didn't get a promotion in part because as I this is my memory, so correct me if I'm wrong. But as I looked across the organization and we calibrated who should and shouldn't get a promotion, it seemed like Corey wasn't hitting the right metrics to get a promotion. And also Corey was about 18 months w the Corey would have gotten a promotion 18 months faster than anyone else that we've ever promoted, and that didn't feel especially given that Corey wasn't hitting certain key metrics,
Well, this
that
is
didn't
news
feel
to me.
right.
I mean, this is the first I'm hearing about this is faster. I mean, Corey was doing the job, and in terms of, how I am measuring what the job was, Corey hit those targets. And, it's really frustrating when there's not, it feels like there's willy-nilly instructions on who gets promoted. And it just feels like it's kind of you and your friends. And for new folks who are trying to, who are meeting the numbers, it's not clear on how to get promoted.
Yeah, that's really that's a helpful perspective, and I'm glad you shared it because I thought I had been clear, and evidently I was not clear enough. I think maybe one thing that would help is to share a little bit more about the calibration process that we do as an organization, because we really take quite a lot of time making sure that all of the managers in the whole company are promoting people for sort of similar levels of accomplishment and rough. I mean, if somebody blows past something, it's not like this is the post office and it's time-based promotion. But and no knock on the
Hey,
post
my
office,
my
by the
my
way.
dad works at the post office, so
I'm really sorry.
yeah.
I should not have. I should not have. It's not like this is a time-based promotion. It's based on
Yeah, but, like,
accomplishment,
you've
and
been
but
there for
also
20
time.
years, so, what did you do to get promoted? Because I'd love to know how you got to your role.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. I also want to say that that the way you said that is sounded very much to me like you were attacking. Like, what did you do? And
Well,
so
I mean, if you're, like, being a manager, I would think you'd have thicker skin than that.
So I think that one of the things we want to do is we want to treat each other respectfully, and I don't mind if you challenge me, but I also want you to know that if you're gonna speak that way to people, that you're gonna get an emotional reaction out of them, and
Well, I mean, look, I think we're just gonna have to agree to disagree. I feel like you do all this, asking and talking and chatting, and I'm just here to do a job. I just wanna get the numbers in, and so, like, that feels like that's what we're measuring on is the numbers, and, Corey hit the numbers and didn't get the promotion.
so as you know, we don't give people a promotion for hitting the numbers. We give people a promotion for consistently exceeding the numbers. And and having a track record of exceeding the numbers over time. You don't get a promotion for showing up. You get a promotion for doing more than is expected of you. And that's, by the way, how I have gotten my promotions over the last 20 years is really building a business that grew at 100% every 3 years, consistently over the past 20 years. So that's part of the reason the company is as big as it is because the teams that I have led hit the numbers. I'm not saying I did it by myself. I did it with the team, and also because I consistently had really high engagement numbers on my team members. That people were reporting that they really enjoyed the job. It wasn't only that they were putting up great numbers, but they were happy at work. So I think those are the two reasons why over the past 20 years um, I have gotten the promotions that I've got. So I think in the case of your employee who didn't get promoted, the reason is that they hadn't built that track record of exceeding expectations quarter over quarter over quarter.
I would love to I don't know, Brandy, Nick, as our advisors, any blink reactions on how that conversation was going?
You can use the radical candor framework and say, where was I? Was I an
I
obnoxious
started off as
aggression?
being collaborative, and then I think I went into against authority.
Yes, you went into very against authority.
You just didn't like me. That
I
was
didn't
the
like you.
that was the thing.
Yeah, I don't like you.
And I think you wouldn't like any manager you had. It actually
Yeah, I sort of
wasn't
veered from,
personal.
like, this was about a specific thing, and then it just turned into
Yeah, why are you
Right.
sitting where
Yeah.
you're
Yes. And I feel like you're just both going to keep going back and forth in this situation. So, like, when does somebody say, this isn't productive? Here's what needs to happen for this role. And
Yeah.
how can we work together better? Like, is there a point where you can move forward?
Yeah. Like, I feel like I put Kim on the spot of, like, her having to,
Right. Well, like,
defend her resume, but Brandy, what you're saying is, like, how does
who's Sam and who's Alex again?
I'm Sam
Yeah. So I
who
feel like
I'm at
Sam has put Alex on a spot where they feel like they need to defend their resume. And that's kind of like Alex is taking the bait versus.
Yeah. So here's what was going on in my mind, because I totally agree that and I had this debate: should I explain it or should I not explain it? And here's what was going on in my mind: is first of all, I stopped and I said it sounded. This is what I mean by sounding disrespectful.
Yeah.
And then when Sam said, or Amy playing Sam said, oh, shouldn't you have thicker skin than that? I was like, that is when I hit the bozo bit. And I was like, all right, this person has got to go. This person is just being a jerk, and is not willing to. But then I started explaining it, because I started thinking, all right, I've got to build. I got to start working on the PIP, performance and improvement
So in
plan.
your head, just to kind of name what was happening, I
Yes.
started off as like, I have a problem. Then as we're having the conversation, I'm kind of veering more into like, there may be a problem, but
And
what
the
really
problem is you.
and I am the problem is like, the problem is like, I don't respect you. And I don't, and I am probably not bought into the care personally part of radical candor. That was what I was trying to get into with some of my,
Yeah, you were.
we're just hitting the
Yeah.
numbers, et cetera. And so
Yeah.
then in your mind, what I hear you saying, Kim, is that now you're like, okay, where we are at is like the only way to salvage this Sam is a PIP, a performance improvement plan.
Yeah. So if this is the way the conversation went, in my mind, I've decided, all right, I've tried. It's time to move this person to a performance improvement plan. I don't want to work with this person.
And are you going to say that to?
No. So what I would do in this case is I would end the conversation quickly, and then I would pick up if I'm at a big company, I'd pick up the phone and call HR and say, I need some help. We need to start moving this person to a performance improvement plan.
So sorry to interrupt, Kim, but is that not radically candid though, to not tell Sam, like?
So once you're going down the path of performance improvement plan, you are officially in legal cover your ass territory, which is not. You can still be radically candid, but you need to start.
But you're not
protecting.
going to say, I feel like this is not productive. I'm going to you're not telling Sam,
What I
I'm
would
going to
have,
put you on a performance improvement plan.
what I would have done at the end of that conversation is said, Sam, this is an example of what I mean by disrespect. It's really hard to work with someone who's this disrespectful. And so if we can't get back on track, we're going to have to make some changes. That's kind of the extent of what I would say. I would never, ever tell someone I'm going to put you on a performance improvement plan if I'm at a big company where there's an HR process, without going through the right steps. If it is a little company and I felt like, all right, this is not working out, I would just say, look, Sam, the way you're treating me is not okay. And my concern is that if you're treating me this way, you're treating other people even worse.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not okay. That's not how we're gonna. That's not how we're. So what's gonna happen from your
Kim,
perspective?
can I ask, like, as I was getting more and more into my like anti-authority, were you experiencing any emotion kind of on behalf of this manager, Alex? What was
Oh yeah,
coming up?
I felt. I mean, I've been there.
Yeah.
I will say though that like some of the people some of the people who I'm still really close with. In fact, there was a guy who worked on the AdSense team at Google who was very much an anti-authoritarian. He was really challenged me. There were three people in particular who really challenged me very hard. And I'm still close with all three of those people. I just took a walk with one. I just went and gave a presentation at another one's company, and this other person helped me write Radical Candor. And and so it's possible to work with the anti-authoritarian if you're open to being challenged and if they will play ball. But if they're like, you and everyone who's a manager is an asshole who I don't like or respect, like that you can't work with.
Yeah.
So you've
I
got to
think
be,
it's
that's
yeah,
why I
what is
started with soliciting feedback.
yeah. Well, I think it's a really important distinction because you can be skeptical of authority and there is that like common human decency and respect. And I think there's a difference if I started off by saying, it's not clear how promotions are being delivered at this
Yeah,
company,
that's
are the
fine.
metrics like that is a legitimate concern. And I
Yeah.
think just to your point for folks, even when we do in our workshops, these kind of role play conversations that tend to kind of escalate into, well, you're terrible and you're getting
Yeah.
fired. And so I think it's important. You and I have had this conversation several times before. So you're not putting me on the pip just from this first
Of course.
conversation.
Yeah.
Right. So I just kind of want to be explicit about that. And then the other thing that I think is my sense, and I'm curious what you think, but there's there is often still a kernel of truth in there. So it's true that this organization perhaps we're not as clear about how do we promote people, and perhaps we've been doing things a certain way, and somebody coming in new, might be able to notice, like, oh, why are we promoting these people, and why have
Yeah.
people been there? So I think the other thing I just want to name is that as Alex writing in as the manager, while you might be dealing with someone who does need to be put on the pip if it goes the way that we went, but there still is perhaps something to look at what are we doing and contributing here to this problem.
Yeah. And it could be that Sam was just having a bad day, So you want to leave some room for that as well. But I would say like we used to do this role play at one company where I worked, and in the role we hired these actors, and one of the lines and we had just done this whole session about how to solicit feedback, how to give praise, how to give criticism, how to gauge how it's landing. So we've done all this work with these managers at this company, and then we present them with this it's kind of a role play, but there's an actor
Mhm.
playing the role of the direct report, and we would ask the actor at one point in the conversation to say to their boss, the fish stinks from the head down. So pretty pretty and we would watch how and the feedback that the manager was supposed to give this person was that they can say things harshly, and so the people who won the role play would say, "This is an example of of saying something in a way that's incredibly harsh. However, it's clear that you have some feedback for me. So why don't you try it again and say it say it,
Mhm.
let me know what's wrong, but don't just insult, me, you know?" And that's what I would encourage
Yeah.
Alex, the person who wrote in, to try to do. You don't want to, because if you demand that your direct report be respectful of you, then you're going to silence. So
Yeah.
you want to encourage them to say it, and even if they say it in kind of a messy way, it's okay. But if they show you if they show you unremitting kind of disdain, then you can't work with them. And it's hard to know where that line is,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, it's interesting. And I can't remember exactly how you said it. Maybe you can remember, Kim, when you first started the conversation and you said it was going to be awkward. And I said, for who? I I recall, and let me know if I'm misremembering, that you spoke a bit about your own feelings of how it felt how I was communicating with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. I said it's going to be hard for both of us, but I want to start by making myself vulnerable and telling you how I feel. I think I said something
Yeah.
like that.
So I'm just curious,
And
like,
how did
given,
you, well, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
yeah.
how did you playing Sam think about that? How did that make
Well,
you
that's kind of where I was
respond?
going, which is, and I'm kind of channeling Jason a little bit, who's traveling. I recall Jason saying that he had, I can't remember if it was I think it was a boss or a peer who feelings were not important to this person. And so it would be more meaningful to point to, you know, a project that we're not delivering on or a metric that we're not delivering on. So that's kind of why I was bringing it up for Sam, who, the way that I'm reading this role is it's less about the impact on your feelings and more about my job.
Yes, I would say though, when I have worked with employees who say I don't care about other people's feelings. I mean, my answer is you have to care about other people's feelings. Like if you're going to communicate with people, you're communicating on an intellectual plane and on an emotional plane at the same time. And if you ignore other people's emotions, then you're just not going to communicate very well. If
And
you dismiss them as unimportant.
I 100% agree. I mean, it's as Amy and not Sam, it's so important to me. What I'm wondering from a more effective sort of perspective, if you are working with someone who is maybe not as dialed in on the feelings, would it be more effective to start by this relationship? I am your manager and I want to see you succeed. And for you to succeed, we need to have a healthy, effective working relationship. So less about your feelings. I'm just curious, like, have you been in a situation where uh, anchoring on how you felt as the manager was not as effective? Do you know what does that make
Yeah,
sense,
yeah,
that
it makes
question?
sense. I mean, I think I told the story before, but it's worth repeating. There was a guy who was on my team, and it was at a startup, and we were trying to figure out when to meet. And there was one time that worked for everybody except him, and he said to the whole team, "Well, that's when I take my run, and my run is more important to me than you all." And so it was like the worst possible way to say it. And so I was giving him some feedback that, you have got to figure out how to communicate better. And from his perspective, he's like, I was just being honest. And I said, I know your run is really important to you. And I care, I want you to have your run every day. I'm not trying to get between you and your run. But when you're working with other people, sometimes you have to adjust a little bit. And not only that, you have to adjust the way you're saying. Because if you say it in the harshest possible way, you're going to elicit a negative
Right,
emotion.
that's where I'm going, which is
Yeah.
like about effectiveness. Because I could, in the role of Sam, I could imagine saying, "This person is my boss. It's not my job to worry about their feelings."
Yeah. Yeah. But it's always if you have a human relationship, it's always yeah, I think that might have worked better, but I didn't know that about you
Yeah, I
when
didn't
I
either.
first
It was
started
really, I was
the
really
role
getting into the
play.
character. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we both learned something important about Sam in that
Yeah.
conversation. um, I think also Sam. I mean, I think the thing is Sam actively undermines their boss and the other members of the management team. And one of the things that is hard. So I'm going to offer some compassion for Sam here. Sam disagrees with some of the decisions that the management team is making. And this often happens. This is the difficulty of being a middle manager is that you often have to implement
Mhm.
decisions that other people have made that you disagree with. And so what I would advise Sam in this case, whether I am playing the role of Sam's boss or Sam's coach, is that even when you disagree with the decision that your boss has made or a leadership structure has made, it's your job to listen, challenge, commit. So you want to listen, you want to take the time to understand that decision well enough that you can explain the reasons for the decision to others, even if you disagree with the decision. Number one. Number two, you want to challenge the decision directly with the boss. So when you were playing Sam, Amy, and you were saying, you didn't tell me that, well, you didn't ask me, you know. So it's your job if you disagree with something to challenge the boss. It's the boss's job then to be open to that challenge. And then at a certain point, you have to commit. And if you've done those things, if you understand the rationale for the decision, even a decision you disagree with well enough that you can articulate it to others, then you're not in this awkward situation with your team of saying, well, Alex says we have to do this. I think that's stupid, but let's go ahead and do it because Alex is the boss. Like, that's not a great way to lead a team. You undermine yourself and Alex, and you make everybody feel demoralized. What you want to be able to do is to say, here's what Alex wants us to do. Here's the decision. Here are the reasons for the decision. So this is what we're going to do. And if somebody on your team asks you, do you agree or disagree? I think it's okay to say, I disagree, but I'm not the decider in this case. And so let's implement this decision in the way that works best for everybody. And again, here are the reasons for the decision. I think that the TLDR here is what I would recommend this listener to do is to take the time to solicit feedback from your direct report and understand, does this direct report have some legitimate criticism for you? And if so, hooray, you're going to learn something and you're going to improve. Does this direct report just have kind of an anti-authoritarian, I hate all bosses kind of attitude? And if so, can you get past that? Because I think that one of the least comfortable things about being a manager is that you do become kind of a projection screen for everybody's unresolved authority issues. And so the more you can figure out a way to get that screen down and really have a real human relationship, this is part of why it's important to try to get on a level playing field. So say, okay, can you talk to me as a human being? And, and what can I do to lay my power down so we can get on the same page and really have a conversation? Try that. And if this person, is just an asshole, it's better to have a hole than an asshole and get going on that tip. But don't go into this conversation having already decided that this person is an asshole. Go into this trying to figure out what's going on. This may be a manager look yourself in the mirror kind of situation where maybe you've done something that has contributed to this person's frustration. Maybe this person is a young rebel who's going to be an awesome employee, but you need to figure out how to be a rebel leader and not fall into this role of you gotta, kick up kind of situation. And maybe this person's just a jerk. You just don't know.
Yeah. So, Kim, I was wondering, what is the next step for Alex after soliciting feedback from Sam and nothing has changed? Before you want to put that person on a performance improvement plan, do you need to give them some sort of very concrete, specific chance to improve their behavior? And how do you let them know about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what do you do if you have solicited feedback and you've decided the problem is number 3? That Sam is just toxic. And you don't want to decide that yourself. You want to make sure that you talk to HR and that you talk to other people who engage with Sam, and because it's always possible that you and Sam just like your oil and water. And so you want to make sure that you're soliciting feedback from others in an appropriate way, from your boss, etc. So, but let's say you've done all those things. You've talked to HR and you've talked to other people who work with Sam, and everybody that you've spoken with agrees that it's time for Sam to go. That Sam has just done too much damage to too many different people. So the the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you get your ducks in a row. So you want to make sure that that when you put someone on a performance improvement plan, it's not just a euphemism. You really do have to give them an opportunity to improve their performance and salvage the situation. And sometimes people really will salvage the situation. Sometimes you've given someone feedback that their behavior is a problem or that their performance is a problem, and they have kind of heard it, but they don't think it matters until they get this performance improvement plan. And sometimes it's just the kind of kick in the pants that the person needs. So you want to go in, you want to write this thing in a way that if Sam turns their behavior around 180 degrees, they can keep the job, right? It's not a foregone conclusion that you're going to fire them. And you also don't want to write a performance improvement plan that is so like, oh, if you show up at work every day, then you can keep your job. You want to make sure that it really clearly addresses the behavioral problems that you've seen. And so the key is that this is sort of like a formalization of the last 15 or 20 or 30 conversations you've had, feedback conversations. So with Sam. So let's assume that Alex has given Sam this feedback. Behavior hasn't improved. In fact, it's gotten worse. And it's clear that it's not just a Sam Alex problem, but that it's a Sam problem. And Sam needs to go. So you sit down and you say that one of the things, like in this case, Sam needs to bring up questions about decisions that Alex has made and that other managers have made directly with that manager, rather than talking bad about those managers behind those managers' back. That they need to challenge directly, not kind of stir the pot politically, which is what it seems like Sam was doing. That's, I think, the big problem that Alex had with Sam is that Sam was actively undermining other members of the management team. And you need to give examples of Sam having done that in the past and say that this kind of behavior, if it continues, is going to be a problem. So Sam needs to stop doing that. And you need to say, like, if there's any more examples of this, Sam does not pass the plan, right? That's number one. It seems like, let's imagine that Sam was sort of behaved in a bullying manner, not only to Alex, but to other people. So you want to say bullying behavior is grounds for termination. And you want to give examples, not just of Sam bullying Alex, but other examples of bullying behavior. You want to put those in the PIP and say any this behavior must stop. And if other similar examples happen, then blah 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 blah. And then you probably want to say something about listen, challenge, commit to decisions about who gets promoted, and what the expectations are for Sam's direct reports, because Sam doesn't seem to be participating in the calibration meetings around promotion. So say something about Sam managing their team and understanding the broader perspective. I'm now making stuff up, but those are the kinds of things that you would want to put in the PIP, I think. So what do you all think about that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. But the one question I had, just so everything is crystal clear to Sam. So as far as, so they're on the PIP.
Well, so you got to have a conversation. You can't just put Sam on the PIP.
You got to have the conversation.
Yeah.
Their things don't improve. Then they get on the PIP. Do you tell Sam up front, like, part of this PIP is if you don't do X by Y, you will not be included in the bonus pool? Or does that come as some surprise at the end of the PIP? Like, oh, because you weren't a PIP, you don't get a bonus? Like, how do you be as clear as possible about everything that's going to happen?
So if someone bullies others, and if someone is only bullying you, their manager, this doesn't hold. But this is if so I'm assuming for the purposes of answering your conversation that Sam has bullied Sam's peers. Sam has been kind of a bully to their direct reports. So it's up, down, and sideways. Sam's bullying. You want to create conversational consequences. So you want to shut it down in the moment. And that was sort of what I tried to do in the
Right.
conversation. You also want to create compensation consequences. And this should be understood as part of the compensation system, that if you bully others, you are not eligible for a bonus. And so if you're giving someone feedback, sort of impromptu 2-minute radical candor conversation, and you say you bullied others and this person seems to blow it off, you might say, as a reminder, our bonus program is such that anyone who bullies others is not eligible for a
Gotcha.
bonus. And then the third thing are career consequences. And the idea of career consequences is that you don't promote a jerk. So Alex is clearly not going to promote Sam, but the worst thing Alex could do is say, maybe Sam will get off my back if I promote them. Like, that's not going to work out well. So you don't promote a bully, because there comes a moment on Too Many Teams history when the jerks begin to win, and that's the moment when the culture begins to lose.
Yeah.
And so instead, you want to give the person feedback, which Alex seems to have done with Sam, that this kind of behavior, this kind of bullying behavior. And now, by the way, like, I think in our role play, it did move into bullying, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure from either the question that the listener asked or from the role play that I would characterize Sam's behavior as bullying. But let's say, for the purposes of answering your question, that it was bullying. Then what I would say is you've got to give this person feedback, because sometimes people are bullies and they don't realize it. Like, in my description of the guy on my team who said, I care more about my run than you people. That he really was not actually trying to be a jerk. I mean, it sounds so obnoxious, but he really had some he had some questions about human behavior, and once I explained it to him, he was quite lovely. He got it. I really like this person. But that moment was not that person's most likable moment. So you want to make sure that you're not too quick to assign a label to this person. And you want to give them feedback. You want to work with them. And then if you decide their behavior is just unacceptable, you've got to fire them. And very often, someone who is sort of hard charging and bullying. Not all people who are hard charging are bullying, but someone who refuses to change their bullying behavior, they do sometimes get results. And very often, people will say to me, I can't possibly fire that person because they get such great results. And what I say to that is, it's better to have a hole than an asshole. You got to get rid of, and there's enormous amounts of research. Bob Sutton who wrote the No Asshole Rule and the Asshole Survival Guide, has written a lot, has done a lot of research that shows when you remove someone who tends to bully others on the team, then the whole results of the team, even someone who's getting good results, but the collective results are hurt by that person's behavior. And when you remove that person, the results of the team actually improve. They aren't hurt by removing the bully. So those are some thoughts on creating consequences for bullying that I think are worth going into. Although, again, from this question, I'm not sure I'm prepared to say that Sam is a bully.
Now it's time for our Radical Candor checklist, tips to start putting radical candor into practice. Tip number 1, get it before you give it. So for our letter writer, we're calling Alex, remember to not skip the first step of radical candor and start by soliciting feedback. Even if you feel like you've done this already, it's always important to check in. And Kim has shared a very helpful tip, a question that she got from a manager. It seems like you hate my guts. Might be a good place to start.
That really changed my behavior, because I'm a little like Sam. I'm a little bit of a rebel.
That's why I played the role for you today.
All right. Tip number 2, don't be too fast to hit the bozo bit. It is really hard to be a manager and to feel like you are a projection screen for everyone's unresolved authority issues. Try to remember that that is part of the job. It's a hard part of the job, but take a deep breath, allow people to challenge you, encourage people to challenge you, and be prepared to be the emotional shock absorber. Don't go in demanding that people love you and respect you. That's not going to work.
Tip number 3, building on the first 2 tips for our manager, encourage your direct report to listen, challenge, commit. Creating a culture where we listen, we have our direct reports challenge us, and then we also commit after we have challenged.
In fact, you have a right to ask your direct report to commit, to get on board at some point. You don't have to argue endlessly. All right. Tip number 4. If you have decided that this situation is just not going to work out, you've given so much feedback, you've solicited so much feedback, and you're moving towards a PIP, make sure that in the next couple of conversations you have with this person, you challenge even more directly so that there is no ambiguity in what you're saying and that you document what is happening. That you are ready to write down exactly what needs to change and by when.
For more tips, to see the show notes for this episode, go on over to radicalcandor.com/podcast. Praise in public, criticize in private. And if you like what you hear, please do rate and review us wherever you're listening. If you've got criticism or if you have a question that you'd like to hear discussed on the podcast, like our friend Alex did, thank you so much. We read every email. Please do email us podcast@radicalcandor.com. Bye for now.
Take care, everyone.
The Radical Candor podcast is based on the book Radical Candor, Be a Kick-Ass Boss Without Losing Your Humanity by Kim Scott. Episodes are written and produced by Brandy Neal with script editing by me, Amy Sandler. The show features Radical Candor co-founders Kim Scott and Jason Rosoff and is hosted by me, still Amy Sandler. Nick Carissimi is our audio engineer. The Radical Candor podcast theme music was composed by Cliff Goldmacher. Follow us on LinkedIn, Radical Candor the company, and visit us at radicalcandor.com.